Good evening and welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex. Lord, a lot to talk about. I know we talked about the Falcons game, but there's a lot of questions surrounding this team with 5 games to go, and they still have a chance to make the playoffs. So we do have to keep that in mind. But let's start with something that Matt Ryan recently said, and it's about the benching of Kirk Cousins in favor of Michael Penix. And Matt Ryan even said that if Kirk Cousins struggles in this game, struggles as badly against the Chargers or anything close to that, has no touchdowns and a pick in the first half, he could see a scenario. And keep in mind, Matt Ryan's a guy who played with Raheem Morris for half a decade. So he knows what Raheem Morris is thinking, the kind of coach that he is. And I know he shut it down earlier in the week, which is exactly what Matt Ryan said. He said that could be the time where we finally see Michael Penix take over the reins of this team.
Yeah, I mean, thinking realistically, Brian Flores is not the guy you really want to make your NFL debut against. Vikings defense is damn good. I wouldn't really want to be throwing my rookie into the fire, although I think it is the right move, depending on what happens this Sunday. It's not the right move yet, and you're just asking for more turmoil. He's going back to Minnesota. This is a big game for him, that franchise, his family. Benching him now doesn't feel like the right move. We're going to get into it. I do think this is do or die. This is win this game, Kirk Cousins, or at least don't lose this game. The Falcons can't lose this game because of you. Or you're going to be riding the pine for the rest of the year, in my opinion. That's how it should be. I can get into why I think that.
Yeah, I firmly believe that this is the Kirk Cousins put up or shut up game. And I know that we talk about, yes, the Falcons do have a save face to agree. I actually think the Kirk Cousins going back to Minnesota thing does play a role here.
Oh, definitely.
And I think another thing that plays a role that you kind of brought up, the Brian Flores in this Minnesota defense is one of the best, one of the most difficult for anybody to read. Kirk Cousins, especially with the way that he's been playing, but especially a rookie quarterback. And when you talk about opening yourself up for more turmoil, imagine if Michael Penix goes out there and just lays an egg. And there's a very real possibility, especially against this defense, that could happen. Then you're like, oh, we're doing the same thing we did last year with Desmond Ritter and who was the other quarterback? Oh, Taylor Heineke. We're doing this
going back and forth.
Back and forth. You don't want that to happen. So
you can't bench Kirk Cousins
and
go back to it.
Yeah. So this is the game where it's like I think Kirk Cousins deserves one more game.
I would agree, because also the Raiders are looming in the following week, and they're not a very good football team. I mean, they're the exact kind of football team you want your rookie to make his NFL debut against. I mean, it is setting up perfectly. And though some people might not want to believe it, I think, outside of the obvious where they don't want to admit they're wrong, the Minnesota reunion thing is a huge deal because of what the Falcons organization has been for my entire life, which is buddy, we're friends, we're family, all that crap. That matters in Flowery Branch. And they want to win. Raheem Morris, Arthur Blank, Rich everybody wants to win for Kirk Cousins. They're going to let him have this opportunity. But I have a question. And depending on how you answer or anybody answers this question, it's the simplest way I have kind of thought about it of whether you should or shouldn't bench Kirk Cousins. Do you think, you personally, and then the Falcons are going to trade Kirk Cousins, or are they going to start Michael Penix in 2025?
I don't see any way that you can justify, from what we've seen to this point, Kirk Cousins being the starting quarterback. Now, that brings up the question, where can you trade him?
If that's the answer. So let's not even talk about the trading of Kirk Cousins, because that's a whole different, can of worms entirely. If that's your line of thinking, that's my line of thinking. There's no reason to keep starting Kirk Cousins then, because we've seen already this team. I mean, I don't know who is watching this and thinking they can make a run in the NFC. I don't know if they can even win a playoff game. Everybody and their mothers knows this is, at best, I seriously think, I'm not even trying to be pessimistic. At best, this is a one-and-done football team. And if that's your ceiling, you're currently wasting today's time when you could be building for Michael Penix. I'll have something on the site about it. It's Arthur Blank's just like, I just want to get to the playoffs. Like, that's all he really cares about. We're playing checkers instead of chess. We're content with just a little bit of success, more so than the the ultimate goal.
Yeah, I mean, even if the Falcons were to win a home playoff game, whoever they play, maybe they get lucky and they play like the Washington Commanders and Dan Quinn comes back and you feel like you have a little bit of a chance there. But if they play like a team like the Packers or the Vikings, you have a hard time seeing that they're going to win. Even if they do that, then they go on the road and play Philadelphia in the cold. Like okay, like imagine Kirk Cousins, who can barely move in a dome, playing in 18-degree weather against a good defense. Like, it's just there's no way that the Falcons can somehow put a run together and start playing good enough football to justify you really solely competing.
Or going to Detroit and watching this Falcons defense try and stop that offense.
Here's one thing that I will say that you do, I think, have to consider, and it is the prospect of trading Kirk Cousins. If you bench Kirk Cousins, who the hell, after the way that he's played over the last 3 weeks, and their right mind is trading for that and that contract and forking over a pick? Maybe you say something like, all right, we can make the playoffs. He finishes strong against some weak defenses down. He has a good playoff game, and you can get rid of him and give him a nice landing spot for a team that's desperate to compete, like we saw the Jets do with Aaron Rodgers. Now, Kirk Cousins is not Aaron Rodgers, but a team like that. Because currently, about the only teams that would be interested in Kirk Cousins are like, really, really desperate organizations. And with a no trade clause, he's not going to take that option. I highly doubt he's going to pick up and move his hand. He's like, you know what? You want to bench me? I'll be a mentor to Michael Penix for 30, 40 million bucks, and y'all will pay me that, and I'll be the highest paid backup in the league, and I'll be just fine, because that's what he's been about his entire career, is making that cash. It's never really been about competing for Super Bowls. It's always been bottom line with Kirk Cousins, and hey, good for him. He's made just about as much money as anybody to ever play this game, despite being a really, really, really good top-of-the-line quarterback. So, yeah, I think that's the only thing you can consider. But I do think it's put up or shut up time.
See, I think you can't even consider – you can't make a decision based on today, based on tomorrow, today. You cannot base your decision-making in terms of, well, nobody's going to, trade for Kirk Cousins, which is entirely possible, and be like, well, we already paid him this money. That is that's checkers. That's the most loser crap I've ever heard in my entire life. Listen, and you do get a little bit of saving grace in that scenario with Michael Penix being on the rookie contract. You're still allocating that money one way or the other. If Kirk Cousins is starting next year, Michael Penix is still going to be on the roster. It's the same amount of money no matter what. You just hope that you can get some of it off the books. Well, it's not going to be a lot. It's not going to be a lot of salary cap relief. You're going to have to take on some dead money. But again, the rookie contract of Michael Penix offsets that. What's crazy is like, that's probably what the Falcons are thinking. Yeah. That's what they're weighing. And that's what bad teams, and I was talking to buddies last night, and they were like, well, Jordan Love and Aaron Rodgers playing like an MVP, and Jordan Love had virtually no experience. He was playing at, Utah State. Michael Penix has played 50,000 college football games. Like, he's ready to play. And if it's been, 3 months sitting behind Kirk Cousins, everybody's saying I've read 15 articles from prominent reporters about how Michael Penix is wowing people in practice. If this is all true, you cannot make a decision based on, well, nobody's going to want Kirk Cousins. That is the most Falcon thing ever.
Yeah. I mean, and the idea that, hey, I just want to get to a playoff game, none of that stuff really matters. And frankly, with the way Cousins is playing and even the ceiling that we've seen outside of the Tampa Bay games, it hasn't been anything stellar. No. There's really nothing suggesting to me at this point Michael Penix can't be just as good.
Well, look around the league.
And even if he's slightly, look at Bo Nix last night. Look at Jaden Daniels. Like, these guys have played at a very, very high level, and I'm not expecting them to come in and do that in his first couple of starts.
If Michael Penix can't come in here, listen, and Zach Robinson, to a certain degree, is asking Kirk Cousins to throw balls that Kirk Cousins may have never been able to throw. Opposite side of the field, outside of the numbers. Zach Robinson is absolutely complicit in the Falcons' shortcomings on offense, but also we have nearly everything a rookie quarterback could possibly want. Better weapons than every other rookie, maybe a better offensive line, though. The Broncos' offensive line is pretty damn good. And a play caller that, I don't know how good Cliff Kingsbury is. certainly better than anything Caleb Williams has had. So I'm failing to see what the Falcons believe. They either have a complete false sense of who they are. I think that if you gave them some sort of truth serum and you asked them, can you win a Super Bowl? They would tell you, hell no. If that's the answer, then what are we doing?
Yeah, no, I'm 100% in agreement, and I didn't think we'd be having these conversations where we were 3 weeks ago. But the simple fact is, we were overlooking a lot of Kirk Cousins' flaws because the results on the field against teams like the Bucs, who literally can't stop anybody, they just made Bryce Young look like a Pro Bowler this week. Like it's that's the only thing that we're hanging on.
Like
that
we're
version
content winning a bad.
I mean,
division.
seriously, I think if you take in the games with I know we talked about the Bucs yesterday, but if you add in the Cowboys, another one of, especially when we played them, the worst defense in the league.
The Eagles before they figured it out.
He has like 12 touchdown passes and 1 interception against those teams, and like 6 and 12 with 8 fumbles against every other team.
He's leading the league in interceptions.
Yeah, I mean, he has more fumbles and interceptions this year through 13 weeks, 12 games than Desmond Ridder had last year. Like he's not playing good football.
No.
It's that simple. We're not going to win with him. He's not going to all of a sudden start playing at the level that he was. Those days of Kirk Cousins are gone. It hasn't worked out. Rip the Band-Aid off and accept that we're looking towards the future.
It's a sunk cost.
I think the reality of the situation is they're scared. They're scared.
They're scared to admit they're wrong.
Well, not only that, but they're scared that Michael Penix is going to come there and not be that good. And now,
listen, he's going to make rookie mistakes. So is Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins had 3 interceptions against the Chargers that were some of the worst decision-making I've ever seen him. Like where you're like, he's a rookie, man. You can't do that. This guy's a 13-year
Nobody is going to sit there and put that blame if Michael Penix goes out there and makes similar mistakes because he is a rookie. And nobody's going to say he can't be good if he struggles over these first 5 games.
100%.
But I just think they're scared.
Yeah.
I think they are scared because they know they're wrong about Kirk Cousins, and they know damn good and well that the only reason anybody in this building is here for more than a couple of years is if Michael Penix come and save this franchise.
Yeah.
And they're scared of putting that on the field seeing what's happening.
Fine. Listen, if I'm talking survival and I'm Raheem Morris, it's very clear, what's in the best interest for Raheem Morris is not in the best interests of me and you in terms of talking about the Falcons fans. It's not. What's in the best interest of Raheem Morris is getting Kirk Cousins and this Falcons team to the postseason, have the first playoff game in Mercedes-Benz history, which is going to make Uncle Arthur all fat and happy up there in the owner's box. And he says, see, we're right there. Well, in reality, we're so much further. Yeah. We're so far away from a Super Bowl.
But the reality also is, and I think what's in the best interest, and we saw this with Arthur Smith, who refused to play Desmond Ridder, and that ended up costing him his job. For example, the Falcons go and miss the playoffs this year, right? They missed the playoffs this season with Kirk Cousins, and Michael Penix doesn't get these extra games, and he goes out there and struggles his rookie year. Raheem Morris has absolutely no business being in this building. He might be because we're scared to fire coaches, but he has no business being in this building because he could have given these fights. So I think what the best interest really in him is getting Michael Penix acclimated. Because as I just said, the only chance of them getting out of this hole is if Michael Penix
is the guy.
Yes.
And they sure seem like he's the guy.
So what are we waiting for?
Yeah.
Your job depends on him. We're going to have to see it sooner or later.
Yep.
We might as well start seeing it now, and you better start getting him ready for next year, because if you don't perform next year and Michael Penix sucks, you're in a huge hell of problem.
Worst case scenario is they fool themselves into thinking that Kirk Cousins, and we're going to do this same song and dance in 2025.
I don't even say something so ludicrous, but you're right.
This is the Falcons.
No, you're right. You're right. I mean, we've been told they do this every single time. Hopefully something changes. We got a lot more Falcons talk coming up after the break.